into the first part in Series 3 of Playing Over Changes, and it's really very important for you to go back and look at the first two series before looking at this one, just to, as they say, join up a few dots really. The principles we're looking at are playing over changes which require us to play more than one scale. So in other words, sequences which we can't just say at the beginning, well, we're going to play this scale and we're going to play it right the way through to the end. Now, this is a really nice way of putting some colour into your solos, but it's also a challenge. Any piece of progress is going to be a challenge one way or another, but it's well worth persisting with to enrich your playing and really improve your understanding of how some of these chords work and the things therefore you can get out playing over them. So this next example I'm going to look at, it's a sequence which runs through a guitar solo. Now the sequence is this: it's E, C sharp, C, G, C ninth, D, A, F sharp, G, and then A, and it finishes up in B minor. Okay, so that's quite a substantial number of chords, and I think the first thing we're going to say is that we need to be economical with our thinking and constructive at the same time. So we don't want to be getting too caught up with stuff, but what we do need to do is regulate the flow of our challenges. So what I mean by that is not attempting to play your way right through that whole thing that I've just mentioned, but just take it one step at a time. So our first step, and arguably one of the easier ones really, is the first two chords. We've got an E going to a C sharp minor. Now for those of you who know about relative minors, this would be not a no-brainer, but it would certainly be quite easy. Now for those of you who don't know about relative minors, for every major chord there's a minor chord which is very similar to it. Now I have actually done a whole video on this, so I'm not going to clog up the airwaves with that right here, but if you want to know about that, it's all there. Anyway, so E and C sharp minor. So although it's not a particularly challenging change, it's very important to try and make something creative from it. So it's still important to think about chord shapes. As ever, we're thinking about the proximity of those chord shapes. We want to play, if we're playing over a change, it's nice if we can get those two chords in a very similar area, if not the same area. Okay, so as ever, here's our E, it's a C shape E, and it's being played at the 4th fret, so a little graphic for that. Okay, we're going to C sharp minor. We can play one scale straight the way through that. We can say, oh well, that's E major pentatonic, or it's C sharp minor pentatonic, depending on which way you think about it. But it's also very important to think about, well, we still want to be able to articulate that change. Okay, and this is where it's a slightly new tactic. It's something I did hint at actually in one of the early series of Playing Over Changes, but it's about connecting one place to another. So let's take an example. I'm here with my E. Okay, now I'm taking a very simple line. Okay, you could argue it's a little bit pentatonic, you could argue it's a bit of a scale, but I'm really thinking about the chord here. I'm backing it up with a finger here on the 2nd string. This is very similar to the last series where we had a G. Those sort of ideas. Okay. So what I've done there, I've used a C. Now the C isn't in either scale. It isn't in an E major pentatonic, and it isn't in a C sharp minor pentatonic. But what it does do is make it very obvious when the C sharp minors arrive. Now, we need to know there's a chord change there. So I'll play that again. Okay, here's another example. Now that time I've just used a little grace note just to hint at the fact that C sharp's very important. So it's still worth thinking of both chord shapes in your mind's eye. Okay, now again, this is our first change and one of quite a few. So it's very important just to get the idea of how many ways you could suggest that C sharp minor is there. And there are quite a few of them available to you. But just before I leave that, I want to also just say that that's not the only place you could play E or C sharp, is it? So that's something else worth thinking about. Okay, so that's about it for this particular segment. Thanks very much for watching, and please hit the subscribe button if you could, and bye for now.